Ephraim's holy ground.
Watched it last time.
Because they made another one, and it's like, I think it's about Joseph. And
I'm not there. Okay, so I had a student some time ago make a suggestion to me, and I had a student make a suggestion some time ago, and I liked it. I just haven't done it yet. So we're going to read pages 269 to 274, and that should get us to it gets us to the end of the chapter, and then we're going to work on some questions together. So I would like a volunteer.
Review by looking at just a few New Testament documents, John and Luke, Acts, we have found more than 140 details that appear to be authentic, most of which have been historically confirmed, and some of which are historically probable. If we investigated the other New Testament documents, we would probably find many more historical facts. Time and space does not permit us to embark on such an investigation, but what we have found, just from John and Luke and Acts, is certainly enough to establish historicity. Historicity of the basic New Testament story, life, Jesus, and early history of the church.
Yeah, keep reading.
But there's even more evidence of historicity. The New Testament writers put historical crosshairs into their accounts by referencing real historical figures and their names. All in all, there are at least 30 characters in the New Testament who have been confirmed as historical by archaeological or non-Christian sources.
Okay, you stop there for now. So historicity means it's historically accurate. It really happened. That's what historicity means. And then those of you who are hunters understand this idea of crosshairs. When you have a gun with a scope, there's that thing in there and it shows you right exactly where to aim. That's what they're talking about. Like they put a bullseye on these things that if they were not true, it would be easy to prove it. Like that you wouldn't, when you're telling an untrue story, you don't give details. If you do give details, you're going to get caught. That was probably my problem my entire teenage years. Well. Okay, so another person want to read. Thank you, Natalie. Archelaus.
Matthew often described the man carrying Jesus along with few women Mark tells the same story about Herod and John. And Luke extends the biblical citations by mentioning Herod the Great's grandson, and his great grandson, Philip II. Pilate is a prominent figure in all the Gospels cited by Paul. Saint Pilate appears on several occasions and is identified in the ancient as the Pope. This archaeological discovery was made postal town in 1961.
What else?
In addition to Pilate, Matthew, Luke, and John specifically name another figure prominently in Jesus' death, the high priest Caiaphas, who sentenced Jesus to die. Caiaphas is not only mentioned by Josephus, but his actual bones were discovered in a fantastic archaeological discovery in 1998. This discovery was made possible by an ancient burial practice of the Jews. Okay, now I read the table, right?
No.
Here, I can
you
read the
read
table.
But this is a list of just a few things that are cited by non-Christian writers that confirmed that have been confirmed through archaeology. So these are things that are written in the New Testament that have been confirmed from non-Christian sources. Okay, you can keep reading.
From about 20 BC to 87, the Jews had a custom of exhuming the body of an important person about a year after his death, and placing the remains in a small limestone box called an ossuary. In a tomb located to the south of Jerusalem, several of these ossuaries were discovered, one of which bore the Aramaic inscription Yehoshaphat bar Kayapha, Joseph, son of Caiaphas. Inside were bones of an entire family, 4 young people, an adult woman, and a 6-year-old man. The man is very likely the former high priest, Joseph Caiaphas, the same man whom Josephus identified as the high priest, and the same man that the New Testament says sentenced Jesus to die. So now we not only have non-Christian written references to the high priestess at Jesus' trial, we also have his bones. As table 10.1 illustrates, there are several other New Testament figures confirmed outside the New Testament. These include Quirinius, Sergius Paulus, Gallio, Felix, Festus, Augustus Caesar, Tiberius Caesar, and Claudius. What else could the New Testament writers have done to prove that they were eyewitnesses who were not making up the story?
Isn't that weird? They found the burial box of the man who sentenced Jesus to die. Anybody ready to go to Israel?
Sounds like a plan.
I want to. Okay, Seamus, I'm going to pick on you. You can read this.
Okay. In spite of these 140 plus eyewitness details and 30 plus references to real people, a hardened skeptic might say, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the New Testament is true. Suppose it says a historical novel, fiction, set in real history, context, something similar to a Tom Clancy novel. There are many problems with this theory. First, it can't explain why did non-Christian writers create a storyline similar to the New Testament. If the New Testament events are fictional, then why did not the non-Christian writers record scenarios that they actually occurred? Second, you can't explain why the New Testament writers incurred persecution, torture, and death. Why would they let us tell a fictional story? Third, historical novels usually do not use the names of real people as the main characters in their stories. If it is those real people, especially powerful government rulers, this would deny the story, destroying the credibility of the authors, and maybe even take into action against them for doing so. As we have seen, the New Testament includes at least 30 active historical figures, proven, confirmed by non-Christian sources. Many of these are powerful leaders. Finally, since the New Testament contains multiple independent accounts of these events by 9 different authors, the historical novel theory would require a great conspiracy over a 20 to 50 year period between the 9 authors who wrote, spread out all over the ancient world. This is not plausible either. In fact, the assertion that the New Testament events are part of a great conspiracy exists only in novels. In the real world, such assertions are crushed by the base evidence.
So this is especially important because today you can pick up your phone and text someone or send an email and you can communicate. The only way that people could communicate with each other back then was to be in the same place at the same time. And that, Paul was often traveling, and as were the other disciples. Some were in Jerusalem. After AD 70, they fled Jerusalem. So it wouldn't have been possible for them to collude on a false story. Okay, one more person to read up to the summary and conclusion.
Wait, you might have eyewitness testimony, but you can't believe the New Testament because it's just one source. They're not multiple independent accounts, as you said. This is a common error skeptics make because they don't distinguish between the Bible as a religious book and the historical documents that comprise the Bible. When considering the historicity of the New Testament, we constantly must remind ourselves that the New Testament we see in the Bible is a collection of largely independent writings from the pens of 9 different authors. It was not written or edited by one person or by the church. While the New Testament writers describe many of the same events and may draw material from the same earlier sources, the evidence indicates that the New Testament documents contain several lines of independent eyewitness testimony. How do we know we have independent eyewitness testimony? Because each major author includes early and unique material that only eyewitnesses would know. And two, their accounts describe the same basic events but include divergent details. Why are divergent details important? Because if the accounts were all from one source or single editor, there would be harmonization, not divergence in details. When early accounts tell the same basic story but include divergent details, historians rightly conclude that they have independent eyewitness accounts of actual historical events. The story certainly cannot be made up because independent sources can never invent the same story. By these criteria, we know that John and Mark are independent. We know that Luke cannot differ enough from Mark from one another to be products of independent evidence as well. So there are at least 4 independent sources for the basic New Testament story. Adding Paul and Peter to the mix, there are at least 6 independent sources for the resurrection. 6 sane, sober eyewitnesses who refuse to repeat their testimony even under the threat of death would convict anyone of anything in a court of law, even without additional evidence corroborating evidence that supports the New Testament story. Such eyewitness testimony yields a verdict that is certain beyond reasonable doubt. Unless you saw the event yourself, you can't be any more certain that those historical events actually occurred.
I think probably the most important, well, not maybe not the most important thing, one of the most convincing things that they say that this kind of evidence would be enough to convict anyone in any court. Because we heard so many eyewitnesses that clearly did not could not collude with one another. So summary and conclusion. We saw from chapter 9 that the New Testament documents are early and contain even earlier source material. At least 10 ancient non-Christian writers within 150 years of Jesus' life give information about Jesus, and their collective references provide a storyline consistent with the New Testament. From this chapter, we conclude the New Testament contains at least 4 to 6 lines of early independent eyewitness written testimony. We conclude this because the major New Testament writers record the same basic events with diverging details and some unique material. They cite at least 30 real historical figures who have been confirmed by ancient non-Christian writers and various archaeological discoveries. Luke peppers the second half of Acts with at least 84 historically confirmed eyewitness details and includes several others in his gospel. Why is it the second half? Because about halfway through, he begins using the words we and us. What do you think happened there? Yes. No. Paul is traveling around at the time. Yeah.
With Paul.
Yeah, he met up with Paul and took the rest of the journey. But he then was also an eyewitness. Luke's proven trustworthiness affirms that of Matthew and Mark because they record the same basic story. John includes at least 59 historically confirmed or historically probable eyewitness details in his gospel. Paul and Peter provide the 5th and 6th written testimonies to the resurrection. Since this early independent eyewitness testimony is within one generation of the events, the New Testament events cannot be considered legendary. So there's no question that real historical events are at the core of the New Testament. The bottom line is that a skeptic has to have a lot of faith to believe that the New Testament is fictional. However, there are more issues to investigate before concluding that the New Testament is definitely historically reliable. For example, how do we know that the eyewitness testimony is not exaggerated or embellished? That's the question we'll address. So let's turn in your book. You were to do Equip 5 and 6 yesterday. So question 5 says, provide some evidentiary facts that demonstrates evidence that the Gospel of Luke to be a trusted document in what it records. Yes.
Yeah, talks about many historically confirmed people, the medical conditions that he describes, mainly crucifixion and directly beforehand, are accurate, even though they didn't know what it was back in the day.
Right. So there are many hundreds of specific details that have been proven to be true. Even as you mentioned, that Jesus died of asphyxiation. That's how all crucifixion victims die. And the spear into his side proved that he was dead because the blood cells had already separated into red and white blood cells. We know that now medically, right? That would happen to any newly deceased person if they pierced the pericardium of the heart. But they didn't know that back then. So that's why he called it blood and water, red and clear. So that's just one of many details that are there. What else? What other book did Luke write? Acts. And Acts has a plethora of confirmed facts in there. It is obviously written by either an eyewitness, in some cases, or someone informed by eyewitnesses. And so it's trustworthy. Acts is trustworthy. Luke is trustworthy in Acts. So why wouldn't we trust him in the gospel? What else? Your hand was up. No? What else? Anything? All of the, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe it's just
Right, right. He's writing it to someone that he wants to write truthfully. And then all the archaeological and historical facts about people and places. We have corroboration for many of those outside of the Bible. Corroboration outside of the Bible for many of those things. Even things that people once thought were not true have since been proven true. So if he's that fastidious, if he's that careful, if he's that correct in those mundane things, why would we not trust him? And then number 6, provide some evidentiary facts that demonstrate the Gospel of John to be a trusted document in what it is. What do we find in John? Yes.
As a proper
It's all kinds of historically confirmed things, yes.
We've got details about the crucifixion that was
Right. Yes.
They prove that Nicholas along with Louis Braille, it kind of lines up with the fishermen brag about the amount of fish they caught. Archaeology confirms the use of the stone water jars in the New Testament, and Memphis walls are on the same level.
All of that stuff has been confirmed, yes.
they demonstrate like Jewish custom and like Jewish society patterns. Like they show like the Jewish official like hierarchy of Pharisees, and also show like Passover, like the way that Tanya obviously like Christ's story. So it's like they're going off stuff that people bang without.
Yeah, and even things about the Pharisees and the Sadducees, right?
Yeah.
That we know from history that the Pharisees were fewer, but they were more powerful. And we see that in the Gospels as well, that truth in the Gospels. So yeah, numerous historically and archaeologically confirmed facts in the Gospel. So the last thing you're going to do for today is to complete equip 7 through 9 and engage 2. So let's do that together. Now, so what are some of you probably want to have your book open? Both books open. So what are some of the historical crosshairs that the New Testament writers put into their accounts, and what significance do they have in confirming their message? First, let's talk about what are some of those stories. Yeah.
They have this historical figure that's significant because those people are going to be in other records, and all those and those.
Yeah, numerous historical figures, and written before the accounts that confirm them from non-Christian sources. Anything from Herod Antipas to Pilate to, and if you read what Josephus says about Pilate, it's exactly what we see in the trial of Jesus, that he was a weak man, that he didn't want to accuse Jesus, that he didn't. We see this picture of Pilate that's very like Scripture. What else? Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So like, I like to know what the words when I say them. So like, what's the difference between like corroborate and correlate and like those
Right. So corroborate means to confirm. Like you know, if a student comes to me and says, you know, Mrs. Mott, was, kept me after, and then I can corroborate that with Mrs. Mott, right? So that's confirmation. Correlate means two things that line up. Correlate. So that means two things that are in some way. So if you take like Luke and Acts, they're not the same thing, but they correlate to one another because they have the same author. Same with the writings of Paul. They're correlated. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, great. What else do we see in these crosshairs of the New Testament? We have at least 30 historical people confirmed, and archaeology has confirmed places and topography and even storms and in Acts alone, Paul's shipwreck. Everything he describes there is exactly what would happen in that situation. And he could not have known that. He was not a sailor. He could not have known that unless he had lived. And for heaven's sake, we have Caiaphas' bones that tell us he was the high priest at the time of Jesus. That his birth and death puts him right in that time of Jesus. Number 8. What pieces of evidence do the authors give in response to the claim that the New Testament is nothing more than a historical novel? Yes.
I wrote a historical novel, right? And I did that President Obama came to my house and gave me $1 million and punched me in the face. He can deny that because he's still alive, you know. And so there's that.
That's true, but that's not answering the question, I'm sorry,
But then
because
there's-
it's saying it's a novel, so it's a made-up story about Obama.
Well, so then
Like real
also with that, say Obama says, I did not do that, right? And then I said, no, you actually did. Well, when the CIA comes to my house and gets me, and they tell me, no, you didn't. No, you not have. And I say you did. And I end up dead. I wouldn't
We've
go that
gone
far.
long enough down this bunny trail because this isn't a.
I wouldn't.
They're saying it's not a true
Yeah,
story.
I'm
It's a
saying
novel.
I wouldn't die for a story that I knew I made up.
That's true.
That's not.
That's true. Yes.
I.
Okay. What do you got?
So say you make a story about
I'll go right.
about like you're writing it and it's like just the Superman thing. You're saying all these like untrue things about Obama, but then everyone else around you is like, no, that's not right. Every single piece of like evidence writing about Obama we know is not true that we have in our culture is completely opposite of that. Then in 200 years they're gonna look back and be like, okay, this person's wrong. But if I write something that's completely correct about Obama, I write a whole paragraph thing about Obama.
You're
And then
doing the same thing. We can't begin by saying I'm writing about Obama and it's true.
See,
but
A
if
novel is about fictional people and fictional things.
But then 200 years when they look back and it's the same exact thing as everyone else's, then they're gonna be like, oh, that was a novel.
No, but the thing, no, John. The thing is, what they now listen here. I'll actually take this. What they say in the what they said in the book, okay, is that they wouldn't. You don't in a historical novel. You don't use real people that you write about. Okay, so that's what I was saying. If I wrote a historical novel about Obama, right, you don't use like real people, right? And then also, if you claim that it's true, right, which they're saying they weren't doing, it was just this, okay? If they're making something up, you wouldn't agree with whatever, like everything else that there was. That was not a historical novel, you know? You don't write a historical novel that agrees perfectly with real people and actual events that have happened in other.
That is true. That is true. So here's the thing. Here's why it can't be an historical novel. There are independent sources. This book wasn't written by one person. It was written by multiple people, and they in at different times, in different places, and in different languages, and they all tell the same story. What?
Some words even Christian.
And some were even Christian.
They would all have to conspire together.
Yes, yes, which would be impossible. And nobody, as Seamus mentioned, is going to be persecuted and martyred for a fake story. If you get in trouble here and you lie to Mr. Hood and he says, we recently bought a guillotine, you're all going to be on your knees going, no, yes, I actually did that. Please just give me a detention. Do not bring out the guillotine, right?
No.
But listen to me. Every one of them went to their deaths, horrid deaths, without recanting. The only person that was with Jesus, that was a disciple of Jesus, that died a natural death was John, and he died in exile on Patmos, on an island. And he was definitely persecuted for his faith. It wouldn't even take that for us to recant. The only reason they wouldn't recant is because it was true. I am gonna call you, but I want to say this first. So, the real names are the main characters, not secondary people. If you do a novel with Obama in it, right? They're secondary. It's not about that person. It's about a fictional person who met Obama or who went to Obama's you know, wedding or something is,
Like historical.
yeah, that's historical fiction. But this is not the case in this. Okay, yes.
Going back to the story about Chris or the two people who said they were late because they had a flat tire. If you separated them into a room, told them to write a story on what happened, and then held a gun to their head and said, "Is this true?" I think they exactly what's true. Pretty quick.
Because nobody's willing to die for it. And nobody's willing to die for a lie that they know is a lie. Right? People die for lies. But they think it's true.
Yeah, they're not willing.
Yes.
Not to mention, people were like, well, maybe they were covering up for something worse. And literally all they had to say was, no, you guys are right. Like, Jesus is not the Son of Man, you know? They didn't have to like, give a whole story. They just
All we had to do.
so simple.
Okay, number 9. How do we know we have independent eyewitness testimony?
Because they disagree on a little bit.
There's some differences, yeah.
Diverging details.
Divergent details.
Discrepancy.
And think of the time, how were they going to do that? John was in Ephesus. Paul was all over the Mediterranean world. James was in Jerusalem. Peter was in Jerusalem until he had to flee.
One person can say something in 4 different ways to write about it over really practical.
Right. So this is what I wrote down. Each author includes unique material only an eyewitness would know. And they describe the same basic events with the divergent details. So we're going to stop there. Wait, was I going to do how much time do I have? Okay, so here's what tomorrow we're going to do. Tomorrow we'll answer that last question, and then you will have the rest of the hour to work on your study guide. So don't worry about your study guide today, unless you have nothing better to do. I got that.
You said the same freaking thing. If you literally started the same. Okay, you did say that.
Okay, so I wrote it about
Oh, not exactly.
Do you want me to stop the video because I just realized it's
I got it.